What's up guys, Janey Brown here with Under Armour to share my keynote today from Fear to Fearce. Now, rejection is part of life, it just is. We can't mitigate it. Just like fear, we need to build resilience to it. And I'm going to share just a few resilient strategies with you today that I've used in my process of healing and regaining my strength. So the first thing I'll talk about is movement. That's a no-brainer. We're wellness professionals. Yeah, go ahead, take that picture. Log it away for a rainy day. It's helpful. So movement, we already know why that's beneficial, right? It balances the nervous system, it makes us feel good, releases positive endorphins, gets rid of excess energy, like the list goes on. As wellness professionals, you know that. Oftentimes as high performers, we think that we have to go in there and always savagely crush a workout in such an aggressive, grinding manner. And sometimes that's maybe what you need. But if it's not what you need and you do it anyway, you've just punished yourself. And movement isn't a punishment, it's a privilege. So one way that you could ensure that movement always stays a privilege is you can connect your movement to a motive. So let's say you feel really stressed and you feel like you have tons of energy in you and it's exploding. Go for a run, do the type of workout that you need to do to expel that energy. Do a crushing legs day, whatever it is, whatever it means to you, right? But let's say what you really need is recovery and you do that. That's not connecting your motive to your movement and it becomes a punishment. So maybe what you need to do is stretching or go to an RMT or something of that nature. So remember that movement is a privilege, not a punishment. And remember to connect your motives to your movement. Next thing I'll talk about is number 2, which is music. So these first 3, movement, music, and mindset, are 3 things that I legit do every single day to keep me resilient throughout the entire year. It's like non-negotiable. So music is my favorite thing to talk about ever. Obviously, I'm a singer. Just like nutrition affects our biochemistry, music affects our mood. And I don't think that a lot of us are thinking about this every day. Think about lyrics as a modern mantra. Like we've all had songs stuck in our head. Yeah, it's pretty easy for that to happen. So lyrics are like a mantra. And mantras, what happens with mantras is they turn into a thought and a belief. So once a thought has been repetitive for long enough, it becomes a belief. And when a belief has been prevalent for long enough, it becomes a feeling. And then the feelings turn into behaviors. And then the behaviors turn into actions. And then the actions kind of make up our entire reality. So if you're listening to a song and it has negative lyrics and it gets caught in your head over and over and over again, it could most definitely affect the way that you actually feel and what you believe about yourself and potentially how you behave and so on and so forth. So my thoughts are to be intentional with the music that you need and the music that you want to listen to affect you in the way that you want it to affect you. And that requires self-awareness, right? If you need music to pump you up to go for a run, you know that. You play music to pump you up to go for a run versus meditation music, which might talk you out of the workout, right? And then same is on the flip. If you need music to calm you down, maybe don't listen to Metallica, right? Unless that calms you down, like whatever. You gotta know the music that's right for you and the media that's right for you, okay? Third thing is mindset. This is a big one. So there are so many different methods that you can use to manage your mindset and to improve your mindset. The 2 I'm going to highlight today are journaling and meditation. So journaling, there's so many benefits and there's so many things you can do with it. Sometimes we're not aware of all the emotion and all the fear and all the shame or all the joy that we have inside of us. And sometimes if you just allow the pen to move across the page, you will discover all kinds of things about yourself that you need to know in order to improve your situation or in order to continue a situation that is working for you, right? So self-discoveries and confessions even are really, really valuable for freehand journaling. And a big one, the biggest one for me, is practicing gratitude. And you guys have probably heard this a million times. I like to literally go, I am grateful for breath. I am grateful for movement. Every single line, because what that does is it starts to carve in that mantra and that belief and that behavior and that feeling. Gratitude is incredible because it can show you how you can sort of pivot your mindset at any given moment, no matter what you're feeling. I am not suggesting that you can gratitude your way out of an anxiety attack or gratitude your way out of depression. I'm not suggesting that. What it does is it carves out an optimistic neurological pathway that allows you to think differently, even if you're afraid or even if you're sad. So it's solutions-driven thinking, it's optimism, which doesn't mean happiness, it means optimism, versus a negative spiral. Gratitude can absolutely help with that. So it's one of my faves. The last thing I'll talk about with respect to mindset is meditation. This is a beast because there are so many different variations of meditation. But 3 that I'll highlight are breath, visualization, and mindfulness. Breath is really key for the parasympathetic nervous system, especially deep, elongated belly breaths. So I mentioned before that in 2019, as Torontonians or wherever you're from, high performance A-type people, more often than not, we need parasympathetic stimulation to balance our autonomic nervous system so that we can find homeostasis. I have this like quote that I give to my clients. It's just breathe before you think. When you can breathe before you think, what you've done is you've thrown a wrench into the gears of your sympathetic nervous system so that it doesn't continue spiraling and spiraling and spiraling and then affect your mind, and then your mind goes back and affects your nervous system again. So your mind and your body work together. If you can throw a wrench in the physical manifestation of the sympathetic response by breathing, then it can actually stop the negative thought patterns and the inner critic and inner trash talker before they have the opportunity to take over and before the brain has the opportunity to do that. So breathing before you think when you're in a state of anxiety and stress and fear is a really, really good mechanism, and the breath mechanism is deep, elongated belly breaths, and there's so many different variations that you can do with your breath. Next one is creative visualization. Creative visualization, if paired with a rich context story, can be extremely transformative. A rich context story is when you include your 5 senses with the visualization. So for example, let's say you have this idea that you want to complete a marathon, a triathlon. While you're crossing the finishing line, you're imagining what are the smells that you could possibly be smelling at that moment? What's the temperature like on your skin? What time of day is it? Who are you seeing, right? You're including the 5 senses in your manifestation and in your visualization. And what happens is the body, once again, can't tell the difference between that creative visualization and a memory. It actually ends up thinking that it's a memory. So then, when you're met with this opportunity that you might be afraid of saying yes to, you're more likely to say yes to it in the future because your body thinks that it already happened in some way, shape, or form. So creative visualization is amazing to prep you for really, really big events. Mindfulness, this is the last thing I'll say about mindset, is pretty simple, but not necessarily easy. The simplicity of it is all you do is you bring conscious awareness to your physical, emotional, and mental disposition, internally and externally. So inside of you and in your physical body. You can do it literally anywhere. You don't have to have the lights off and meditation music and candles. You can literally do it walking down the street. To have yourself secluded and no noise can be helpful when you're starting out with mindfulness because it can be tricky. We have a monkey brain. Our brain is always bouncing around. We have, these phones that are a super big distraction, and there's just tons going on, especially in a big city like Toronto. So it can be helpful to put yourself in a space where you feel like you can advance. But the goal is to actually bring that mechanism into your walking daily life. And when you can do that more often, you can continuously offer what you need to yourself over and over again. And that is self-empowerment. And that builds resilience. So self-awareness, mindfulness being one of the mechanisms that leads you to self-awareness, and journaling also, is a powerful, powerful tool in order to build resilience. So the rest, I'll just name them out in case you can't see from the back. Recovery, proper recovery. Let me just give you a one-liner here. Sleep is progression when recovery is the mission. That is progressive, that is productive. When you know you need recovery, what's successful is sleep. So sleep is progression when recovery is the mission. Redefining success and productivity on good days and bad days is very, very incredible to build your resilience. Having a good community of people who accept you for who you are. Therapy can be amazing to build resilience. Nutrition. Nutrition can include medication. Please do not pathologize medication. That can be the difference between life and death for someone. The ability to feel what's honestly there for you. Cry. The only thing worse than having an anxiety attack is having to pretend that you're not having an anxiety attack. So if you need to cry, go figure out where you can go cry. It unlocks you. It's just pain being processed out of you. We think that when we bottle up our pain, it's like gonna help us resist against feeling it or something, but really just prolongs the process and we have to feel it later anyway. Just allow yourself to cry if you need to cry. Practice forgiveness and acceptance. Consistency with your habits. Where motivation lacks, discipline lives. If you can be disciplined and consistent with your habits, with the things that make you feel resilient and empowered, on the days that you don't feel like it, that discipline might save you because you'll end up doing it anyway if it's as much of an innate habit as it can become when you're consistent with it. Authenticity over perfectionism. So I'm going to just talk about this before we wrap up. We think that if there is any little artifact about us that is shown to another person that is imperfect, that it's somehow going to lead to rejection. And it might. Like, we can't control that. But while perfectionism might be the ultimate defense to rejection, it's also the perfect path to self-destruction. Because pretending that you're perfect or striving to be perfect isn't being grounded in your authenticity. And that is abandonment. So what's happening here, perfectionism doesn't mitigate rejection because you're rejecting yourself when you're trying to be perfect. And that's not to say that you can't practice over and over and over again skills that you want to get good at, but to strive for the actual word in every sense of it, perfection, is not authentic because we aren't perfect. We are flawed. That's what makes us beautiful. Choosing courage every day, in any way that you can greatly, greatly contribute to your resilience. And I'm going to wrap this up by saying bravery and fear are not binary. So people think like, well, you're either brave or you're afraid. That's not the case. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to feel afraid and do it anyway. So the way that I spell Fearce is just another reminder that we need our fear to be fierce. Thank you.